Welcome to The Road the Stage, episode lucky number something.
18. We
There
can
we go.
drink legally now in Alberta.
Yes, and maybe one other province? Quebec.
Is it? Is it?
Quebec, I think, is 18,
Okay,
yeah.
that's
I think.
news to me.
But anyways, what's going on, Peter Michaels?
Summer is humming right along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just doing stuff, summer stuff.
Cool.
Do you get pessimistic this time of year?
No, what
that
do you mean?
Summer's coming to an end?
No.
So I'm normally not a pessimistic guy, but all I see is like a few weeks from now, the kids are going to be getting ready to go back into school. Leaves us like a few weeks from now.
Well, with our luck in Alberta, we'll get a bunch of snow the first or second week of September.
Do you know the fog theory?
No, what's that?
90 days from the first fog
Okay.
is when you'll get your first snow.
When was the first fog?
About a week ago.
So is that some
weeks
Farmer's
ago?
Almanac mythology?
That's right.
Did you grow up with a Farmer's Almanac? Was that like always on the tank of your toilet?
And never accurate.
Really?
But yes. Grew up all around
It was, and
farms
like,
and farmers.
so what time of year do you buy a Farmer's Almanac?
I think in the spring is usually when they would come out.
In the spring of the year you're looking
Oh,
at?
actually, no, you're wrong. It's actually would be the fall the year before. So
Okay.
fall 2021, you'd get the almanac for 2022.
Crazy. And do you know what it's based on? Just like the noises cows make the year before or something?
Think how much moonshine
Right. Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
distills on their back 40 probably has a lot to do with it.
I was always fascinated with a farmer's almanac.
The farmer's almanac,
Yeah.
it never lies.
I do. I want to. Maybe that's a science we could get into. I could just like study on the side or something.
Let's figure it out.
Farmer's Almanac. All right. So, no, I'm not pessimistic. I have barely noticed. It's been a busy few weeks, and I've barely noticed that. I don't know. It's still summer.
It's still summer. It's still heat
Still
all
summer.
over. There's still smoke all over the place.
I got a trip I'm going on this week, so I'm going back home for the first time in 2 goddamn years.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
How do you pack it all in? Like for 2 years being away, you got a
tough.
lot of friends and a lot of family to go and see. How
It's
do you?
tough.
Yeah.
It's really tough. I've got, in the last week preparing for this trip, we basically realized that one whole week of those 2 weeks is like just fully jam-packed. And yeah, when you haven't been there for 2 weeks, you want to save a lot of time to just chill
Yeah.
at home with your mom, with your brother, a couple of grandmas or something like that. But yeah,
Some home cooking
it's
again.
going to be tough. Yeah, home cooking, some heat, some hanging out in the backyard pool. Looking
and
forward to that.
I think you're going to do a little work for the road the stage.
We'll
while
see.
you're there
Like I
too,
said,
right? Maybe?
jam-packed.
Maybe.
Jam-packed. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
All right.
We'll see. But we got a fun interview for you today on The Road the Stage. I've never talked to Skye Wallace.
I've never talked to Skye Wallace.
Have you seen her?
I've not seen her
No.
live. I was trying to think if she was on a tour with Matt Mays, and I can't remember. I tried looking up to see if that was the tour that came through Red Deer, but I couldn't
Didn't
confirm.
see a Red Deer date on
I didn't
that.
see any Red Deer.
So we'll have to ask. But she is going to be in Red Deer at Bose and all over the country, really, for the Crown Lands tour. Blanking on what that tour is called right
Big
now.
Wave.
Big Wave Tour. So Skye Wallace and Crown Lands will be in Red Deer October 19th. So look forward to that show in your town, your city this fall.
Episode 18, The Road the Stage. Huge thanks to Go Services Inc., Sawback Brewing, Tourism Red Deer, and Bose Bar and Stage.
And Communal Creative Studios. How's that?
Beauty.
Okay. Hello.
Hey.
There she is.
How's it going?
How's it going? Good. How are you?
Excellent.
Excellent.
Look at that. Are we using the same mics? I think we're all using the same mics.
Our little Shure guys.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I wish I could describe our producer Ryan's face when he was offered the opportunity for you to record on your end. It was like the greatest day of his month.
It's perfect. I'm part of a D&D podcast, so I have all of the podcast stuff kind of set up.
Yeah,
Anyway,
so I mean, well, now that you bring it up, let's talk about that. I didn't realize that you are actually like are you a founding member of this podcast?
Sort of. I didn't do any of the world building.
Okay.
But I'm one of the main characters that started off the podcast. So it's I think we're like just released episode 8, but
Okay.
we've been doing it for quite some time. And my very good friend and actually my bassist Jenna, they are the DM of 2 DMs, so they did all the world building for it, and it's been a trip to be on so far.
Is it a weekly episode? Weekly release?
I believe it's weekly. Weekly, sometimes bi-weekly.
What is this podcast called?
It's called Planet Arcana.
Okay.
And run us through. Like, give us what are we gonna find in a typical episode?
Cool. So I'm relatively new to D&D. Like I only got into it, I think Jenna brought it to us on tour in 2019. That was like my first time ever playing D&D. And as far as it goes, it's definitely like a D&D based podcast. Like that's the medium through which we're telling the story.
Okay.
It's all improvised, dice rolling for kind of choose your own adventure vibes anyway, but you don't necessarily need like a D&D background or even any knowledge at all to really get into the storyline. Just because it's like fiction. It's fun fiction. It's kind of like science fiction-y mixed with fantasy. It's got like a really cool thing, and it's not like a typical D&D world or like, all the lineages are different. It's like, it's a really cool thing. So I think if you've thought about D&D, you'll be into it. If you're really into D&D, you'll be into it, or like not at all. I think it's like a cool storytelling medium. So yeah.
So you are that podcast is taking the listener through the campaign that you guys are actively playing. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and it's all like improvised as we go.
So an episode could be 6.5 hours.
I think we cap it at like 2.
Okay. That's very safe. Very safe. That sounds awesome. That's really cool. And I've never heard of that being a pastime on the road.
A road game. How do you play it on the road?
Well, so I don't know if we'd do it to the extent that we did before, because it does take a lot of effort from the DM to like get everything prepared and like set up. But it is, you're like, especially Canadian bands, you're touring, you're, sometimes driving for 10 or 12 hours a day, and it does help pass the time.
Yeah.
I know, otherwise I'm listening to like murder podcasts.
Right.
Less good, I think, overall.
Well, there is one other game I know that you guys play on the road that I'd love for you to explain to people that might not be familiar, is the anal road game, which I stumbled across that one last night. That seems like it'd be a lot of fun. Do tell.
Okay, so I think I did play this growing up too, but I think it's mainly other Canadian musicians that I've talked to that play this game, and it's basically any RV that you see on a highway as you're driving, you just put the word anal in front of its name.
Okay.
So that can mean, many run-of-the-mill ones like Anal Explorer,
Yep.
etc. But you can get some really niche ones, some really like spicy ones.
RV names can be pretty funky too. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this is something that like
you've
talked to a lot of musicians, right?
I've never heard this.
That's the first time that I've heard.
Skye just unveiled a massive Canadian musician secret.
Oh yeah, it brings joy to anyone that plays it. So I think it's fine to be shared. It's in my opinion.
I agree. Spread the happiness.
I do have my RV as a Northern Spirit, so I would be Anal Northern Spirit.
That's beautiful.
Poetic, isn't it?
Very,
it is.
very cool. So you play the anal game or the anal RV trailer game. You play D&D. So are you just doing D&D on the road, or is that something like, where's Skye and her band? They're up in their hotel room somewhere doing what? They're playing D&D.
Because we've only done it for the one tour, I'm not sure yet. We didn't get into like hotel room vibes yet.
Right.
It was more of a van thing, but the future is vast.
And does it evolve into cosplay? Like, do you eventually get into the whole dressing up in character?
That's not entirely common, is it?
Hasn't yet for me.
No?
But
Okay.
I don't think you have to dress up.
I don't think
to
you
play
have
D&D.
to, but I think if you take it, I do know people that take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
Full on LARPing.
Full on LARPing. Yep.
LARPing. Have you been LARPing before?
I haven't been, and I feel like that's a big missing piece of my life.
Have you seen that? There's like this, like, I don't know. It's just like this forest and farmland area. It's like acres and acres somewhere in Quebec. I saw it in some Vice show years ago, and they just have these huge LARPing get-togethers, and they have like entire like weekend campaigns where you're just running.
That's amazing.
It looks incredible. It looks like achieving certain levels of imagination that you never dreamed possible as a kid, but doing it as an adult. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I do like about like D&D and everything. It's like, it's very like, what else do you get to use your imagination like that?
Yeah.
As an adult.
So does that extend into other facets of entertainment for you? Like, are you really into more fantasy, science fiction driven movies and books? And
definitely. Yeah. I'm very much into any kind of like alien-based sci-fi, any kind of I'm into all of it. So,
Are you stoked for Dune, the new Dune movie?
I am. I'm like hopeful.
Okay.
Because the last one was not, obviously, not great. I
Yeah.
did just read Dune like within the last year, and I hadn't read it before for some reason.
Was it amazing?
Yeah, it was. There were parts that felt really long, but
Right.
it was worth it because like the imagery and world building is crazy. So.
Yeah, I've never read the book, but that movie, the original movie, do you remember when that came out?
That
was that a big deal around these parts?
Like early 80s, was it?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when, but I've watched at least a good chunk of it, and it is just, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I remember watching it. I had like a really, really bad head cold.
Okay.
And we were on tour, and we had like a stopover at my friend's cottage in Fort Francis, Ontario. And we started watching it, and I like had a fever, and I just like slipped in and out of a fever dream during it. And it felt like maybe the only appropriate way to watch that movie.
Yeah, that's damn, that is a trip.
I feel like all of this, though, is going to play really nicely into this tour with Crownlands coming up. Because we
yeah.
talked to them a couple of weeks ago, and we're talking a little bit about the stage setup and design that they, kind of have in mind for that. And it sounds like it's going to be a completely other world created on that stage. So
That's so cool.
I would imagine you got to be. I know you just played a show at was it at the Horseshoe this
That's
past
right.
week?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looked
it was
awesome.
our first inside show since everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looked great.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. It like I was worried that, because of all the restrictions and logistical elements to it, that it would kind of detract from like the joy of the whole thing, that it wouldn't feel like a normal show, but it totally did. It just you got going, and it was totally great, and everybody had an awesome time. So.
And were they like, so what were the rules in the venue? Like was everyone in the crowd wearing a mask, or?
For the most part, if you're sitting down, so there were tables put in at the Horseshoe Tavern, which they don't normally have. It was, I think, about like a quarter. I forget what the capacity is, but a lot less than what they usually have. And they put tables up. If you're sitting, you could take your masks off. If the tables were like close-ish together, they had like plexiglass between them. And if you stood up or walked around to go to the bathroom, etc., you had to put on a mask. So it was like, they were there, but everybody was like super respectful, and also were able to have a good time. So.
Right. I think for the most part, like with music fans, and I know that's the way I had been treating things, like we don't want this to go away again. So if there's rules that you got to play along with.
Yeah, but you got to offer some context. There are zero rules here right now.
Well, Alberta's a little different. Yes,
like
it's a free-for-all.
We both have been to concerts in the last 2 weeks that were unlike or just the same as before.
Yeah.
It was wild. Mm-hmm. It was crazy.
But at the same time, if I would have no problems if there was restrictions in place for a show like that.
Yeah.
By all means, I'm going to do it. I want to. Totally. We don't want to see a regression.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's funny. It's interesting. There was, I think you had a quote on one of your Instagram posts about, how great it was to play live again, and that sometimes you kind of hem and haw about, maybe is music the right path for me? But then you get on that stage and you're reminded.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, like the career as a whole is like so multifaceted, and so often like artists have to take on many roles, and some of the roles are less fun than others, like all the admin stuff and all that. But like the reason that you do it, like that collective connection, like the playing of the music, connecting with your band, etc. Like that. Those are the reasons why you do it in the first place, and to not be able to do that for a year and a half is a bit of a trip, and it's nice to do it again. It's very affirming.
You didn't want to do too much reevaluating.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, you don't have to, because again, we mentioned it, but October 19th is when you're here in Red Deer. Now we were wondering, because have you played at Bose before?
I haven't.
Okay.
I've wanted to. And
well, that's good to hear.
I'm very excited.
Because you were opening for Matt Mays a couple of years ago.
2018 was it?
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that after the record release, or?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So.
And I think the last time Matt played Bose, I think was on the 2018 tour.
So they skipped Red Deer.
So I think he might have skipped Red Deer on that 2019 tour. Yeah.
Well, we're very excited to have you out here, especially because it's your first time at Bose. It's also, we're super excited for Crownlands because it's their first tour where they can kind of do whatever they want, and it sounds like they intend on doing that.
That's awesome. I love them.
Yeah, have you guys collaborated before? Have you done anything together?
No, like we've We've followed what each other have been doing, like, in kind of interacted online.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, just mostly, like, for me, I'm a fan, and I'm so stoked to. I think it'll be a really cool show because, like, our music isn't the same necessarily, but it's like it's got a cool through line that I think will knit together in a really fun, like, overall show. I think it's like a really nice. It's gonna be a really nice night.
Yeah, and you'll get a nice taste of that too with the Truro show, right? The Rock the Hub.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first outdoor festival in a long time. So
It's in like
that's gonna
just
be
under a
good.
month or something. Yeah.
Yep, almost exactly a month. Yeah.
Crazy. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
And of all these places you're going, like, you've moved a lot in your life. So you've visited a lot of these places before.
Yeah.
So you did spend a couple years in Edmonton?
No, it was actually only 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Which is wild. But I like went back and forth quite a bit. I was like dating someone who lived there at the time, and then I moved there. It didn't end up, working out for me living there. And yeah, I was like I grew up moving around a lot, and I feel like that extended into my adult life, and then with touring and everything, that's also been the case. So I feel like it did like prime me in a way to be like traversing constantly the country. So yeah, it's been interesting for sure.
And why were you traveling so much? Why were you moving around?
Well, with my family, my parents had a business, and it didn't pan out, and then we were just kind of like moving according to like where work was, and then like we ended up moving out west eventually to Sunshine Coast, BC, and we moved there just because like my sister is disabled and can't walk in the ice and snow, and there was just so many months in Ontario where it like she couldn't actually be mobile outside, so it made sense. And there were like a couple of other reasons why we just like ended up moving out there as a family, and it ended up being great. I finished high school there, moved to Vancouver, and stayed there for some years, went back and forth to Edmonton, and then I ended up moving to Toronto on my own, like in 2014.
Okay.
I think, and since it's been home, so yeah.
Well, yeah, benefits too. You just played the Horseshoe, one
Totally.
of our first shows. So,
And do you think, are you set now in Toronto for a while? Like, I know my wife was the same.
Yeah.
She moved around a lot when she was a kid. And I grew up in the same town. I went through the same, like K to 12 in the same school, same town. So kind of when we were married, I was kind of into maybe moving around a little bit, but she'd done it so much as a kid. She's pretty happy that we've been in Red Deer for 20 years.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you just kind of want to be in a spot and just stay now?
Definitely. Although, like, this is a conversation that's been had with, like, I think most creative types in Toronto, especially with just everything in the last year and a half, is like, is Toronto sustainable? Because it's so expensive, right? So it's like that interesting thing where I love Toronto so much, and I love like the art scene. I love all of the aspects of it. And if I could stay there kind of indefinitely in a sustainable way, I would. But it also is the conversation of like, well, what does that look like for the rest of my life? What does the next like 5-10 years look like? And it's still kind of uncertain. So it might be a place that is accessible to Toronto. Maybe that's it. But as of yet, I have no answers. And Toronto, for now, at least for the next 5 years, is for me. So yeah, I think I kind of both minds, where it's like I want to stay in one place, but I also am just kind of like being aware of the realities. Situations.
Well, and as a musician, you get the best of both worlds because, you've got the home base and then you're still now going to be able to get back out and move around the country.
Yeah, exactly. Get a taste of the movement.
Yeah.
Where's your second favorite scene in Canada?
It's kind of I really like Vancouver. Like that
Yeah.
was kind of where I started playing music. And I do really love Vancouver. I also love on the other side of the country, like Halifax.
Yeah.
Just like love the music scene there and the people. And whenever I get to go out that way, it's awesome. So yeah, I'd say those are my
Opposite
but honestly,
ends.
there's so many awesome music scenes in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's like very cool to see just like the sheer wealth of great music that comes out of all these places. It's amazing.
Speaking of Toronto and sustainable living there or being able, we were talking to Zach Gray from the Zolas months ago about a lot of his friends, a lot of them creatives kind of, and just, friends being priced out of the city in Vancouver in general. I'm flying to Toronto for the first time in 2 years tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. It's been a long time since I've been home, but you've been very actively promoting what's happening with the encampments downtown, and I was hoping that you could kind of give us outsiders, a simple idea of what exactly is happening in the city.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very strange, especially recently, like a couple of months, and like I think encampments have been in Toronto for a long time.
Yeah,
and I think things have been exacerbated by the pandemic and just like lack of access to resources, shelters being absolutely overrun and full, and also like unsafe options for a lot of people. Like the shelter hotel system has been something that has come out of like the pandemic.
Yeah.
But again, that's like it's not permanent, and a lot of people don't feel safe in those environments either because a lot of them are like quite far away, and you're so surveyed and like kind of isolated as well. And there's just a lot of problems with that. So like there's not a lot of care to talk to the people who are going through the thing as far as like providing care. So like the city didn't address encampments for a long time. Like there was no provision of survival necessities or things. So there was a network that has kind of come together of just neighbors and volunteers of people called ESN, which is the Encampment Support Network that I was working with over the last year. That's just providing like basic human needs to people who are living in these encampments, which like water and Gatorade and food and things like that, just because otherwise there's not a lot of access. And like through the winter was especially eye-opening because like, especially over like, recently, like there were no places open where you could go inside. Like everywhere was closed with lockdown, right? Mm-hmm. So there was really no access to a lot of things, and there wasn't the care available to a lot of folks. So I think it was really eye-opening. And what's been even more eye-opening is the militarized kind of evictions that have gone on. Like it's been very strange to see to see all of these councillors and the mayor of Toronto and just the city in general taking on like a no encampment goal.
Yeah.
Which sounds great in theory because it's under the guise that they're going to be going in with offers for affordable housing, permanent housing for people, but that's not the case. And it has been twisted in a lot of ways. But like I was there for the eviction at Bellwoods, and it was like there was like hundreds and hundreds of cops arriving at like 4 a.m. and like drones flying overhead. They like fenced off and kettled everybody. There was like a huge SWAT team that they did pepper spray. They did like a big sweep. And I know the one at Lamport recently was even worse. So it was just like really shocking and like a little soul crushing to see like people be treated in that way just because of like the desire to invisibilize poverty, basically. So yeah, it's been definitely like, a good experience, and I like love the relationships that I forged during that time. And, hopefully, the amount of press that has been had on these evictions, like definitely keeps this conversation going and doesn't let it just fall through the cracks again.
So these officials, the councillors, the mayor, the police, they're coming in and they're removing these encampments, I'm assuming because it goes against some sort of code, some sort of law. But are they inspired to take that action because of the community members around these encampments?
Some, like, there's definitely some folks who are against the encampments in the area, but there is a lot of community support, like an overwhelming amount of community support. Like an example of that is even like around Christmas time, like outreach didn't even have to be there as far as providing meals and things like that, because there were just like the magnitude of people coming through is so vast. So, I'd say, I mean, like I don't have as much experience talking to this as like somebody who would have been living there would have been able to say, but like, I do feel like there is like a huge amount of community support. Like there's a lot of people with like, I support our neighbors in tents with like the signs on their lawns and things like that. Like there's a lot of that. So that's heartening anyway.
It's crazy. I had a conversation the other day with someone who's involved with affordable housing from a municipal level in Alberta. And just hearing from this person how disheartening it is to go to some of these community organization meetings where community members are actively fighting against the idea of implementing affordable housing in their neighborhoods. Wow. And it's like, okay, so you don't want affordable housing because you're scared of these certain fear factors, but by preventing something like this happening, you're also assuring that those specific fears continue.
Right.
Yeah.
Such a nonsense approach. It's just,
And it's really amplified what's going on in Toronto just because of the sheer size of the city and the volume of people involved. But it's not, it's happening everywhere. We have the exact same thing happening in Red Deer. Smaller scale, less people involved. Way smaller, but it is still the same thing. So you would think if this is such a nationwide, not even just nationwide, worldwide problem, but nationwide problem, there's got to be a solution. There's got to be enough brains in the country somewhere that should be able to figure out a solution.
You need the people, more people to accept the solutions.
Right.
Yeah. And also like just the demonization of poverty and like, things like drug use and things like that is like a key issue with like even just the opioid crisis, because it's like not being listened to, it's not being looked at. And there's so many people dying because drug use is seen as this like thing that should be not talked about and like kind of, I don't know, taken out of sight kind of thing.
It's an uncomfortable discussion for a lot of people that leads to an unfortunate amount of ignorance for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that explanation. I really do appreciate that. I know you've been promoting it quite heavily on your social media, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm have a lot less information than a lot of people, but happy to impart and talk to my own experiences.
Is it just kind of like a side passion for you, or had you ever considered going down a route as a career maybe in social services or something down those lines?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I would have to devote like a lot of my time to it, like in a way that I would feel like I would feel happy with going down that path. So I think like, as with touring and things, that's not something that I can devote my time to as much going forward, but like it is something that like that did open my eyes to that as like, a possibility. And like somehow if there's a way to like to integrate that into my life going forward as much as possible, that's something that I'll want to do.
And it's great. You have a platform to help. Amplify.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important. I don't know. It's good to see a lot of people being involved in this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the more bands that use their platform as, sending messages, promoting ideas.
Yeah.
The ones that aren't, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
But anyways, so you've got this tour coming up in the fall. Have you been working on anything over the last year and a half? It's been a couple years now since the record. What's going on?
Yeah. I'm gonna flat out say I'm ready for a new album.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to hear.
I hadn't listened to your last record in, probably a year and a half or so until the other day, and I was like, oh, I wonder how much of this I'm going to remember. Every single thing.
Yeah.
It's a really great record.
Yeah.
Really, really awesome.
Dying for more.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So I have been working on a record this entire time.
Excellent.
And just finished it.
Hey, congrats.
So it's done. The date for release is not announced or decided, and might not be for a little bit, but like there's new music coming for sure sooner than later. And it's just like really nice to have like finally like plans in motion and like trying to like develop content, like what all the visuals are going to look like and what it's going to mean to me. And like, it's a very exciting time, like an exciting process to start, especially after just like a lot of waiting game.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, how much further down the road do you think you'd have been without the pandemic? So there's a lot of artists that were ready to release new music in 2020 that just or did right in March and had all those plans foiled. But your last release came in 2019.
Perfect timing.
So the timing probably worked out, whereas you normally probably would have been getting back into a new album cycle around now anyways, right? Or would it have maybe?
It is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt pretty grateful to be at the point where I was, as far as like, I didn't really have to cancel anything. It was a bit of a natural break for me. And I think too, even though like, everything that's happened has been so terrible, but it like for me personally, at least initially, it was nice to have time to recuperate, because I had just been going and going and going so hard with just like tours, and like my last release was independent, so it was like a lot of a lot of my own kind of work and effort and energy went into it. So I think that period of time to just like slow down and actually not be able to do anything was really good for me, for like my relationship with touring, with just like my own mental health, my physical health. I think like it gave me this time and space to kind of analyze how I want to go forward, and like what is a healthy and sustainable way of like still doing as much of the live music as I possibly can fit in, but also putting those things as a priority. So I think it was like, I'm very grateful to have been at that moment where I didn't have to, postpone much. And I do know a lot of people that did, and that's like a terrible, terrible thing to have gone through. So yeah.
Moving forward, as you get everything going again and the touring comes back, I think almost everybody that we've talked to on this podcast so far has talked about the break being good, because everybody just goes so hard. You're just going. You're saying yes to everything. You're going. You're touring. So moving forward, how much will the last year and a half or so play into the account where you'll be like, you know what, I don't necessarily think I can do that many shows in that time period? Or are you going to go right back to just saying yes to everything and going as hard as you can?
It's a bit of both, because like on one hand, we've been deprived of live music, so I'll just be like, I'll do it all. I'll take anything. But yeah, on the other hand too, like it is good to be strategic and to like think about what you can physically do as a human, because we're human. And like, I think it's a little bit of both, where it's like, I'm going to be, I do want to go on the road kind of as much as possible, but I think it's going to be in a way that is like health forward. So happy medium.
Good thinking.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips and tricks and we've asked this to a couple of bands as well, that like life is different on the road than it is being at home. So how long does it take you to kind of stop being road Skye to being back in Toronto, living kind of the normal life in one place, Skye? Is it a big transition?
Tricky transition. I feel like, being in a van with a band, you start to develop your own language pretty quickly. It's just like the weirdest inside jokes, like things that, like people outside the van, normal society shouldn't be subject to, like just like very strange. So that's like one element. The other thing is like, so the thing that me and my band do on the road is, go to Subway, because it's like this insane hack where if you get their breakfast wrap, it's like an egg in a wrap, and you can just like fill it with so many veggies. It's really cheap, and it's like our thing. We love it so much that we've started calling Subway Green Friend.
Okay.
And so when I get home from these things, I do still go to Subway almost every day and like wean myself off of it slowly, because I do love it so much.
That's amazing. Are you guys? And is there an inside joke with the actual toppings that you get on each other's wraps or whatever? Because I remember, have you ever seen that old Tom Green bit where he goes into like a Subway in Ottawa, and the guy just spends like 10 minutes getting the guy to put on everything. Like the sub was probably this tall at the end of it. You guys could really, really mess around with Subway employees.
I thought maybe we were finding out there was a hidden menu, right? You were ordering things off a hidden
There's got to be
Subway.
a hidden menu.
I'm sure there's.
We did go to one spot in New Brunswick that, like, the people were so awesome. They were like, I think they were like these little potato hash brown type things. And we were like, can we get those hash brown things? And like, I think they overheard us talking about putting them in our sandwiches. And they're like, we can put them in the sandwiches for you if you want. And we were like, what?
Wow.
Like, I hope I don't get them in trouble, but it was awesome.
All right, make a note. We need a submarine bar at Beau's on October 19th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With potato hash browns.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I do have a nacho review Instagram as well. So that
Whoa,
could be another
okay.
possibility.
All right. That's even better.
Let's explore this a little bit.
Beau's nachos are pretty damn good.
Beau's nachos are good.
Oh,
wait, what? You have a
exciting.
separate nacho and a separate account for nacho reviews?
Yeah.
Is it secret?
It's, well, I kind of started as like a half joke, but like the other half wasn't a joke. I'm very serious. So it's called the Aficionacho.
Okay. Brilliant.
And I started it in nacho capital of the world, Dawson City, Yukon.
Right.
There were two options. I was there in January. And yeah, it's been a journey. I think nachos are my favorite food. So yeah, it's been a great thing for touring as well.
Are you
Just
willing? Are you willing to say where the best nachos are in Toronto?
Yeah, for sure.
And?
Right now, it's kind of tied for me between obviously Sneaky D's, Death from Above, 1979 Nachos.
Yeah.
They have like the habanero peppers, they have pulled pork, they have like all these amazing things. But my like tied for first, I'd say, there's this bar called the Emmett Ray on College Street, and you can opt to get like these maple baked beans
Whoa.
on
Interesting.
your nachos, and they're just like undeniably the best. Like they're so good. So
That's
I'd say,
very,
like,
very unique.
yeah,
But
so unique.
awesome.
Not
That
just
sounds-
baked beans on nachos I've never seen, and maple. Very interesting.
Well, it kind of occupies the same flavors as like a pulled pork.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I love. So yeah.
So those rival the best nachos in the country, or
yeah, I'd say.
okay, all right.
They're
Okay,
tops
let's
for
go. You have to choose between brisket on the nachos or pulled pork. Brisket
Pulled
or
pork.
pulled pork, easy. Okay.
me. Pulled pork because of like the sweet and salty thing.
Yeah.
Like I think for me that's like the clincher.
Yeah.
I know it's not for everybody, but like I don't know. I think brisket is a little bit more on the savory side, and the pulled pork is a bit more like that sweet with the
Yeah,
cheese and
okay.
all the flavors. So
Interesting. Okay. All right. Good to know. Some the
Side note, we will-
aficionado.
There will definitely be some nachos waiting for you at Bo's when you come in, and they will be legendary. Maple baked beans.
So just when you tour, it's just a nonstop diet of Subway and nachos, basically, is what you're
yeah,
saying.
I need to like cool it on the nachos though, because like it's that much cheese isn't good for anybody.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I am, before we move on from the new record that is finished, is there anything you want to tell us about the evolution of your sound? Because it's definitely changed quite a bit over the years.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think. Well, I started solo. With an acoustic guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely more of like a folk thing. I guess that's what was accessible and like inspiring to me at the time. And then like over time, like I started adding distortion to my acoustic guitar.
And then you went fully electric.
It took a while though. It took me a little bit to like actually make the switch, but like it was the process of like adding band members and like trying out what configurations I wanted. It was an awesome learning process. But like making the switch to electric guitar has been obviously like I feel like it's like I've settled into my sound, especially with that last record. That was like, okay, I found the thing that I've been searching for that I want to pursue. So it's the sound now.
And so you're not, you didn't evolve too much from that. Like you're kind of playing in the same field, or
Same field.
okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah. Same like band configuration. Like yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's
it's a rock and roll record.
that's great. I'm very excited to hear that.
And to hear it live too.
I won't bug you anymore about when it's going to come out.
Well, I'll push down that road a little bit.
No, you can't.
I'm going to, because you do have the tour with Crownlands coming up in October, and it would be great if maybe a new song or two made it into the set. Like, can we say if there'll be? Okay.
There'll be for sure a new song or two in the set, and who knows, maybe we'll even have one out by then. I'm not quite sure.
Well, if you do, we'd love to have you in the Communal Creative Studios here to play it on.
Well, we've got a great little
big old
performance
green screen.
set up here. So yeah.
Yeah. That would be wonderful. I would be
Yeah.
honored.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. That would be we could it would be a lot of fun. We'll
So
figure
you've
that
got
out.
a lot of work to do between now and when that tour starts. Then I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So is that
for
some
sure.
of that admin stuff that you were talking about earlier? That some of that hard work that needs to be done is going to get done over the next couple of months.
Some of it, yeah, but at this point, I'm welcoming it because
Yeah.
it's been the type of admin work that I haven't been able to do for a long time, and I love to plan, so I'm all for it.
So what kind
But
of
yeah,
things? So what's going on? Like artwork stuff? Like do you do some of the artwork things on your own, or do you have a team for that?
I don't like do the artwork myself, but like I definitely am part of the curation of that. Like I do want it to kind of like all align with kind of my vision. So like I'm definitely a big part of that process. Like it's very hands-on for me, which is great. And just like figuring out, like I want it to be like a very cohesive whole, just like, sonically the album should be like a cohesive whole. I'd want the whole thing to kind of like fit together. So I'm like excited for this one to have it be like this big kind of like all in one piece sort of thing. So like the work just begins now, but it's like a long road to getting everything together. It's exciting.
And you'd mentioned doing the last one independent. Is that the same case with this one?
This one's actually on a label, which is great. You know, it's just like there's so many more people on the team who are helping bring it to fruition. And a lot less of a runaround for me personally as an individual. So I'm very excited.
Do you have merch planned for this tour?
I was actually just talking to my manager about this, and we're going to do a new run of merch.
That's awesome. Anything, you know, a little different than other merch runs?
We did, I guess it's not different because we've done it before, but like we did a very short run of toques on the Mad Maze tour, and they just sold out like immediately. And I was like, oh, frig. I should have had more.
Yeah.
So we're going to do those again for sure. But I also got like this sick artwork done that's like a pinup, like old school tattoo style of like me with like an electric guitar riding a tiger. So I think
Oh, hell yeah.
that's going to be the focus for this next merch run.
Who designed it? Do you wish to?
It's a tattoo artist named Wes Pratt in
Okay.
Toronto. He owns Duchess Tattoos in Parkdale. He's a rad dude.
Cool. That sounds awesome.
I think I'm gonna get it. He has these like flash tattoos in like a giant gumball machine that you can just like randomly select. And I think it's like cheap, like it's like $100 or something. Sorry if that's incorrect, Wes. But like I think I'm gonna go just get some flash done. You know, because it's like it's been so long since we've been able to get tattoos and things like that. So
yeah, I messaged a guy in Hamilton like maybe a month and a half ago because I was hoping to pop up there next week for a little work, but they're just so busy catching up. I think they only really started reopening their shops in the last few weeks, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think it was probably like July 16th.
Yeah, so
or June 30th, something like that. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to wait a little bit, but I'll
Even
be patient.
The guy I got mine from in Olds is, I think he's booking into next summer.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, like it's crazy.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah, he stopped doing walk-ins and it's all.
Yeah.
Wild.
What are you gonna do?
I will say on the merch side of things that the Skye Wallace is my dad's shirt. I think might be the greatest
I've never seen
piece
that.
of merch
I've
in
never
the
seen
history
it.
of. You haven't seen that shirt?
No.
Okay, look that one up.
I'm gonna have to bring some for you too.
Oh, it's I absolutely love that shirt. Where,
dad
how did that one get cooked up?
Oh, I think it was like a number of things where like, you know, I sometimes refer to my music as like post dad rock because it's definitely like influenced heavily. And then like, you know, I make a lot of dad jokes. I'm the tour dad. I'm like all these things where it's just like, it just made sense. And then like I started saying it on the internet and people were like, yeah. And then I started saying it at shows. People were like, you're my dad. And then I got shirts and people really liked it. So that's great. My uncle, my very supportive uncle who comes to all of my shows, my Uncle Rob, he actually got a shirt made in the exact same style. It says Skye Wallace is my uncle.
Oh, that's
Hey,
the
there
best.
we go.
That is so
That's
cool.
very nice. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And then, so you've got this tour planned. You've got new music coming. You got some sick new merch. You got this D&D podcast, which like could go on for years, right?
Absolutely.
Is that the plan?
We'll see. I was talking to Jenna about this the other day, and they were saying that like we'll maybe be able to get all of the episodes in for this campaign by next summer. But then again,
my
that's
God.
just what we're recording, not what we're putting out. So it's probably going to go on for quite some time.
Are you streaming this show anywhere else? Like I know that there's some like D&D channels on Twitch where people can
Right.
tune in once a week or whenever it is to watch this campaign that they've been following for months. Is
Yeah.
that something you guys are thinking of?
I'm not super involved with like the
Yeah, fair enough.
like the admin sides of things, but I do know it's like it's out wherever you listen to your podcast kind of thing. I know we have like there's like a Patreon and things like that, so people can get like extra behind
Right.
the scenes episodes and things like that. But I don't know about Twitch, and I'm going to ask about that so that I actually have a better answer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you listened to a D&D podcast, Pete? Have you ever played D&D before?
I will put you to the test of even if you've never played, heard, or whatever. I'm going to listen to it because I have absolutely no involvement at all whatsoever in D&D, other than knowing that it's out there and exists.
Are you a big fantasy guy?
I do like. I mean, obviously, like Lord of the Rings and all those kind of things are. Yeah. I'm into that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try it.
What is your like fantasy or sci-fi go-to, Skye, for content?
For content, for anything?
Anything.
Oof.
The tip top.
Damn. I am just reading 2 books that kind of like align with those genres quite well.
Okay.
So that's probably, I mean, I do really like graphic novels as well. Those are
Right.
so sick. They can be so like awesome, and like just like the imagery of everything is so cool.
Yeah.
Books, I just finished reading Project Hail Mary, which is by like Mike Weir, the guy who did The Martian.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I heard about
And
that, right.
It was not what I thought it was going to be. It was awesome. It's really well written, just like a really awesome story. And then I just started reading the second book in the Trickster series, which is just like incredible. And I'm very excited to dig into some more because I love the first book so much.
And that level of storytelling is like you've always been interested in that your whole life, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so. Like, I mean, like it was definitely, I grew up like off and on living with my grandfather on my mom's side, who is a Newfoundlander. And like the storytelling elements were always a part of just the household and like the culture of the household.
Life.
And then thusly, like that's what influenced my music a lot too, is that storytelling elements, and also just like the music that he brought into my life because we were so close. And I think, that's always been of interest. Actually, that's kind of what sets this album apart from things I've done previously, is that like I did take on such a storytelling role with previous albums that this one is the first one where I've delved into like a full-on personal, like my own life's experience album. So I know a lot of people that do it a lot and do it very well, and it was always like scary to me because it's another level deeper, you know.
Do you notice
And,
do you notice a big difference between, like, I guess it would be hard from your perspective, but is there a big difference between writing about yourself versus writing about other people's stories?
I guess it depends. I guess not when it comes down to it. It's just a matter of like digging into those emotions,
Right.
and of your own stuff. But then again, too, it's like I feel a lot about the stories that I've delved into about the other songs and things. Like the last record, I wrote it in Dawson City, Yukon, and Newfoundland as like 2 residencies, and learned a lot about like the places that I was in. You know, one place was I was actually staying in what used to be a cottage hospital, and just like the stories from the history of that place. And then the other one, you know, I was in Dawson City, which has like so many stories in place there that like it was a really cool, like you do feel all of like the raw emotions, and like get to tell the story through, you know, a song is a really compelling thing.
But there
as
is
well, so.
still a little bit of your personality in that, in the fact that you might be telling somebody else's story, but obviously it interested you. So
Big
you're
time.
still giving a little bit of an insight into yourself and what your interests are.
Yeah, and it's still my voice. So I think like the stories inspired the songs more so than I was like, I didn't want to like just take somebody's story necessarily. I wanted to like be inspired by them and then create kind of something from that. So it still very much was my voice. I think it was just what I was used to. So jumping off and doing my, like, you know, my own personal story was different, and that like it wasn't like immediately easy, and it was a bit of a challenge getting there, which was awesome. I think it's like a cool growing, learning situation.
Yeah, I can imagine when you're writing stories that involve other people, you want to honor them and be respectful and, you know, do it justice. Can you apply that to yourself?
Yeah.
That sounds like the tough part.
Totally. Well, especially because like, you know, you're unearthing a lot of things sometimes, like a lot of emotions, and like different, you know, throughout your life you have various traumas and things like that. Things can be brought up again, and like that's always difficult. But I don't know. I think it's like a very healing thing as well.
It sounds
it's
like it.
Very cathartic.
Maybe we could that could be like a contract job, as you hire a great storyteller, a great musician to like write songs about your emotions, and then you can heal from that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
If you don't have the ability to do that.
Or you're afraid.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. You got something there, I think.
Just opened up a new revenue stream, maybe.
A new kind of music therapy.
Yes, absolutely.
And ghostwriting, a new kind of ghostwriting in a
A new
sense.
kind of ghostwriting music therapy.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. I'm just stoked to finally get to see you. Pete has seen every goddamn band in the country for the most part, but he has not seen you.
I
wow.
I could not be more excited.
So,
and
yeah.
to have it as the double bill with Crownlands, I've seen a few times.
Yeah.
And I just know that this is it's a great room here at Beau's, as I'm sure you've probably heard about.
I've heard such good things.
And there's just
Great.
There's just magical nights in there, and I just know this is going to be one of those nights. I can't wait.
Amazing.
Yeah, no doubt. I do want to know, is there anything you've been listening to lately that you want to mention? You think we should be opening our ears to?
I have been listening to, there's a new Tafari Anthony album out, and I have been listening to him quite a lot.
Okay.
And then also there's a song by Digging Roots that just came out today that I've been listening to.
Yeah, I saw you post that. I haven't.
Today.
Yeah, I got to check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, I feel like last fall, this was like my record of last fall, but like it's kind of coming full circle now that fall's on the horizon is the Nehiawak record from Edmonton.
Okay.
I just love that record that they put out. I think it was in 2019.
All right.
Yeah. 2020. Yeah. But yeah, so awesome. So I'm listening to that a lot again.
Some great recommendations. Well,
Love
thank you very much. Anything else, Pete?
If we go any further, I'm going to be begging to hear some of this new music. So that we should probably I'm chomping at the bit. I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait.
Well, thank you so much, and it was a pleasure meeting you, talking to you. We can't wait for October. It's going to be here in no time at all, I feel.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Skye.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Nice talking
to
to
meet
you.
both.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Peace.
Bye.
All right, Skye Wallace is my dad.
I'd like her to be my dad too.
Yeah,
She's
there you
both our
go.
dads. That man, it's a great piece of merch. She's amazing.
Really nice. Really great musician, too. If you haven't listened to that 2019 record, seriously.
Well, and it's like you
go
say,
do
if
it.
you hadn't gone back to it and instantly remembered all the songs, they're so catchy. That's the thing that I like. Again, they've just been swirling in my head for months.
For some reason, and it may have been 2 full years since I listened to that, but for some reason, when I went to put it on the other day, I was like, okay, I remember that song and I remember that song.
Just by looking at titles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that Suffering for You song is legitimately one of my favorite songs in the last 5 years ever. But going through it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. There wasn't a single one that wasn't familiar to me, which means that I listened to that album a lot when it came out. So go give it a spin. It's just called Skye Wallace, right?
Yeah. And then
so
the previous
self-titled?
albums as well, like we'd kind of mentioned in there as well, what I've really liked about it is that you can see growth through all the albums, right? The album,
Big time.
no two albums kind of sounded exactly the same. So I'm happy to hear she's found the path with this album, and we can expect more of the same.
And October 19th, if you're in Red Deer, they've got a bunch of other shows all over the country.
All over the country. Go and see this
The
show.
Big Wave Tour. Check it out. Go follow Skye Wallace on social medias and the Nacho account, too. Now I'm a little nervous. But anyways, what else we got, Pete?
Well, do the same thing with us on all the socials, at The Road the Stage, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Subscribe on the Beau's Barn Stage.
Rate and review
YouTube,
us on iTunes.
Leave a review on the Facebook page if you enjoy the show.
Right. I forgot about that.
You can do that too.
And shout out to our sponsors, Go Services Inc., Tourism Red Deer, Sawback Brewing Co., Beau's Barn Stage.
And, of course, the great gang here. And it's going to be awesome if we can get Skye in on that green screen. Have Ryan and
We're
Riley
going
record.
to
We're
do
going
it.
It'll be happening
Side Road Session.
at Communal
Right?
Creative Studios. That's another great thing. Make sure you check out the Side Road Sessions. We've had a couple of great musicians come in and perform in front of that green screen. So some great live music in this room.
Yeah. It's been a fun few months here at Communal Creative Studios, and you can reap the benefits on the YouTube, the Beau's Barn Stage YouTube. So go check it out.
So next week, we are doing something on the show that is yet to be done. It'll be a first for us.
Yes, we are
Next
recording
week.
the entire episode stark naked.
What do you mean? I'm naked right now? Oh, the camera's there. Shoot. It's not just the...
He tried to fool you, and it failed.
Damn it.
Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We are turning the studio into a steam bath,
Yeah.
a sauna of sorts, and we'll see how that pans out.
You'll have to speak up. I'm only wearing a towel.
Stools are we? Oh yeah, it's the leather stools. Next Wednesday.
The Road, the Stage is produced by Ryan Kuly and Ryley Surian at the Communal Creative Studios in Red Deer, Alberta. In partnership with Go Services Inc., Sawback Brewing Co., Tourism Red Deer, and Beau's Barn Stage.